So we're still speaking, obviously, about the Benoni, which is what the Tanya altogether is about. And that is a person who's fully in control of not just of his actions and following the divine soul's voice, so to speak, of what he should do, but also of his speech and of his thoughts. Um, we are going into the inner makings of the Benoni. We did that in chapter 16 quite a bit. And now we're continuing here in chapter 17. Last week, we spoke about the drive or the engine, so to speak, of the Benoni. In chapter 16, we spoke about those wings, love and fear. Now we're going deeper into this. If you recall, last week we spoke about fear, 3 levels of fear. Fear, we also said, is not the perfect translation for yirah. It's more awe than fear. But that's more or less where we're up to, again, going into the inner makings of the Benoni. All that with the goal to not just understand the Benoni, but to, of course, incorporate everything that we study, so that by studying these chapters or these words, we can also better understand ourselves and how we can become Beinonis, have full control of those 3 realms: action, speech, and thought. Does anyone want to read top of page 84, as we mentioned?
Rabbi,
Yes, please, Linda.
I think I was wrong. I don't think we started chapter 17.
No, I think we did. We started
Okay.
chapter 17. I'm almost sure you were right. You were right. Page
I
84.
remember reading myself. It was the top of page 4.
No, you were right, because I remember going into the fear here that we're speaking about.
Okay. I'll be happy to read.
Okay, thank you. Go for it. Page 84, top of page.
Moreover, the rabbis also said that only tzaddikim have control over their hearts. But for anyone else, their heart is not under their control, and they must struggle throughout life not to be under the control of their heart. None of us can immediately reprogram his heart after deciding that closeness to God is worthwhile. It is evident that the sages, as well, were of the opinion that tzaddikim alone have this ability. At any rate, neither the Torah nor this book deals solely with tzaddikim.
Right. So just to clarify, the tzaddik is that highest level that not everyone can reach. You're either born a tzaddik or not. Now, it's interesting because here it quotes the Talmud that speaks about the difference, or I would say one of the main differences between a tzaddik and a rasha, which is the contrast of the tzaddik, the wicked person who has no control, not in the realm of his actions, not of his speech, and not of his thoughts. And one of the main differences is that Reshaim Birshut Libam, that the wicked are controlled by their hearts, while tzaddikim, they themselves have control over their hearts. Tzaddikim, it says in the Talmud, just to quote accurately, that something like tzaddikim sholtim al libam and reshaim birshut libam, that the tzaddikim govern their hearts, while the wicked are governed by their hearts. Now, if you recall, we spoke about this big concept a few weeks ago, a few chapters ago even, in which we said that the ideal is when moach shalit al alev, that's how we called it, that's how the Tanya calls it, where the mind controls the heart. It's not that the heart is not important. We need a heart, obviously. We need to feel. A lot of the service of Hashem and service of others must come with the heart. But the heart must be driven by the mind and not the other way around. The mind that is cold, intellectual, that can analyze, that can sift bad from good, must be the one in the driver's seat. The heart has to be used, but again, by the mind. The mind has to be in full control. The tzaddik has that all the time. The Beinoni tries to have that all the time, and he's pretty successful at that all the time. The problem with the heart being in control is that the heart not only is a very unstable world, because one day I feel this way, another day I feel that way, emotions come and go, but the problem with the heart is that also the heart is a very confusing world. It doesn't know how to sift. It doesn't know how to derive good from bad and so on. And it doesn't know also whether something is lasting or not. Something, it's one of the tests, I would say, that if you're about to do something what is going to be the after effect of that something? How is it going to last? And if the after effect is bad, then you know that it's bad. But that only the mind can know, not the heart. The heart just wants to do something, immediately without thinking of the after effect. The heart is very impulsive, very confusing, very changing. And so the heart must come second. The mind must come first. The tzaddikim have that mind that come first. We also spoke about the initials, if you recall, that if a person has the right order, that first the mind, then the heart, and then the rest, then the initials are moach of those three orders, right? The mind, moach, then lev, the heart, and then kaved, which means liver, but represents the rest. And the initials of that, the acronym is melech, then one becomes a king over his life altogether. One becomes a real representative of the King of Kings. While if it's the opposite, if first the liver, then the heart, and then the mind, then kaved, lev, and moach, if you take those three words and you take the acronym of those three words, then it spells out klum, which means nothing. And at the end of the day, you'll have nothing. So that's the big focus here of the Benoni, that he always thinks before he feels or before he even acts. That's because his moach is in control. The tzaddikim have that almost on cruise control, while the Beinonis have to work on that all the time. And this is what this is saying. And again, that's what makes us Beinonis. We think before we say anything, before we even feel anything. I don't know if I shared with you, but I think that I'm good friends with someone who lives in Miami, Chaim Ben-Amu, who was a devout student of Elie Wiesel, and been telling him to publish this for forever. And I hope he listens to me and to so many people who have been telling him the same thing. But he has maybe a collection of 500 letters from Elie Wiesel. He was very, very close to Elie Wiesel, the famed Holocaust survivor. And Elie Wiesel gave him advice on so many different things in life, and just every advice is a gem. And that's why I've been telling him to publish it. But Elie Wiesel, as we all know, was a big author. He's made famous by his book Night. By the way, a book that at first was very unsuccessful. As he tells us in his memoirs, he went to 13 different publishing houses to try and publish his book Night, his first book about his experiences in the Holocaust. And everyone rejected his book. This was in the 1950s. And finally, the 13th or the 14th publishing house said, you know what, we'll publish just 3,000 copies. And if it works, then we'll continue working with you. And thank God, those 3,000 copies were sold very quickly, and it became one of the best sellers ever. But just to show you the resilience also that he had. But one of the pieces of advice that he gave my friend Chaim Ben-Amu is that when you write something, and he said apparently that he does that himself, when he writes something, he never publishes it immediately. He first sits on it. He puts it in his drawer, doesn't think about what he wrote. And then when he's more calculated, when he has his mind back controlling his heart, then he goes back, takes it out of the drawer and asks himself, is this something worth publishing? And if it is, then he continues on to write more and then to publish more. But as I read this, he has this big file with all the letters of Elie Wiesel, and I was reading this. I said to myself, this can be applied not just to writings. It can be applied just to words. Maybe before I speak, I should put those words aside and think whether they're worth publishing them with my mouth. And if you're unsure, then don't think about it. Come back to it tomorrow. That person will always be there for you tomorrow. Those words will always be there for you tomorrow. And it's true not just with the words of the mouth too. It's true with deeds. It's true with thoughts. Again, it's true in all these three realms. Put them aside. Hide them, lock them up in a drawer. Don't think about them, and then come back to it. Because then you won't be thinking about them just from your heart. Then your heart won't be able to overcome you, overwhelm your mind. Then your mind will be the one in control. And then you'll be able to decide whether they're effective or not. This is a lesson I think that's particularly true in our day and age, where you're so quick to respond to anything, to any post on social media, to any reaction by anyone. And sometimes it would really behoove us to be Beinonis, to just lock those thoughts up in a drawer and come back to them. And I will also venture to say that maybe not most of the times, but many times we'll realize that those are not words worth saying. And that you'll take them out of the drawer and throw them in the garbage instead of saying them. But anyway, that's one example of how tzaddikim and Beinonis should function with their minds over their hearts.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Okay, so it's very important for the mind to control the heart. I understand. But I would say more than controlling the heart, controlling the impulsivity, because if the mind ignores the heart, then we can say that a robot is a tzaddik because it's all doesn't have a heart, right? It's all rational and it's all, but of course we cannot say that. So to what degree the mind controls the heart? So it's more the impulsivity, I think, right?
I would say the impulsivity of the heart. Again, the heart is important. That's why tzaddikim are not robots. They use their hearts. They give when they're into something. You know, you see tzaddikim pray, for example. You see tzaddikim speaking with people. You see tzaddikim doing good things. They have their full hearts in the picture. But again, the mind is always in control. So you're right. I would maybe to fine tune that. I would say it's the impulsivity of the heart. But it's not just the impulsivity of the heart that wants to be impulsive. But sometimes the heart also is not that impulsive. Sometimes I feel something and it's a lingering feeling and therefore it's not impulsive. And I just carry it with me. Take, for example, a grudge. Grudge comes from the heart. And that's not impulsive. Grudge is not impulsive because I carry them. They're not like, immediate reactions. Is that something that's good? No.
No, of course.
So it's not, it's also the impulsivity of the heart, but also other things of the heart. I would say, Rabbi Abraham Dr. J. Tversky says that there's a 3-filter test to every emotion. And I'm almost sure we've spoken about this in the past. But every emotion has 3 steps. And our goal is not to allow the emotion to reach step 3. The goal, I think, is deeper than that. Again, to lock it in the drawer. But what I mean by that is take an emotion, take anger, for example. So we're speaking about grudges. So the first emotion is anger. I'm angry. And that's something that we can almost never control, unless, again, you're a tzaddik. I'm angry about something. Then step 2 is rage. And step 3 is grudges to that emotion. I'm so enraged that I'm keeping this grudge in me. So Beinonis may be able to control that anger, that it doesn't swell to step 2 and step 3. Maybe it doesn't even emerge as step 1. Tzaddikim certainly have that anger in such control that it doesn't even emerge. It's not even a step 1 for them. But most of us, if we are really working on refining ourselves, at least we can eliminate immediately. Everyone has the power to do so. Step 3. If you've eliminated step 3, now try eliminating step 2. And this is true for every negative emotion. By the way, it's true for every positive emotion too, right? Take happiness, for example. Happiness, step 1 is, wow, this thing really filled me with joy. I just heard good news. Wow. Step 2 is not just joy. I would say it's the difference between joy and happiness. It's something that's quite lasting. And then step 3 is that I'm in this ecstasy, this exuberant joy that doesn't enable even me to see or to consider anything else because I'm overcome by that joy. So you have it in every emotion. In negative emotions, again, the goal is to immediately eliminate step 3 and then work on step 2. And the Beinoni goes even further with this mind controlling his heart. He's also able eventually to refine himself so much that if it's a negative emotion, step 1 is very, very, very short. Maybe it doesn't even exist altogether. So that's another way of looking at the heart. So it's not just impulses, but again, it's so many other things.
Rabbi?
Yes, please.
I have something to add to this.
Yes.
Of late, I've been following a podcaster named Jefferson Fisher. who is a trial attorney and specializes in communication skills. And one of the suggestions he made that I believe is very powerful is that if you're in a negative mindset or negative emotional state, the first response is obviously not a reaction, but a response is a breath.
Mm.
That should be your first word, is a
Right.
deep breath.
Right.
And getting in the habit of doing that if you're in a negative state or angry or however you want to describe it, I think that's really helpful.
I love that. That's great. I love that. That's why they say the word for breath is the same word for soul, neshama and neshima in Hebrew,
Yeah.
because you want to first be in touch with your soul and then react.
Yeah, that's good.
Breath
That's
is
good.
one tool to do so. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. How many breaths?
One. One, and then walk away.
Okay.
Franz Kafka took your advice.
What's
He
that?
published his writings. In fact, he wanted all his writings burned after his death,
Yeah.
but they got published instead.
That's right. Franz Kafka.
Uh,
Franz Kafka, who was a really remarkable man because he did suffer from depression and he writes about it too, but he achieved so much. So he must have had control over his heart too, which is, by the way, again, sadness is another negative one. Some of it is clinical and that's way beyond my pay grade, but for the average person, sadness is also an overwhelming emotion. I'm sad. I don't want to smile. Leave me alone. Okay, so you have sadness. Now, step 2 of sadness is already like this depression. Again, I'm not talking about clinical depression, but depression. Well, I can't get out of it. And step 3 is that I'm so bitter that I stay in bed and I check out of this world altogether. Franz Kafka, even though he writes that he suffered from sadness, he was able to overcome that. Something to learn from. He also had this great wit and humor. He said that, speaking of Bereshit, we just came from the creation of the world and creation of Adam. He said jokingly, I don't know if it's worth repeating, but he said that it's a pity that God created man on the 6th day. He must have been tired then. Creation. He said that Mashiach won't come on the last day. Mashiach will come the day after. But anyway,
when he's no longer needed.
What?
When he's no longer needed.
When it's not. Anyhow, but yeah, there's something to learn from his dealing with the sadness and depression. Anyways, that's true again with every negative emotion. Let's continue. Unless there's more comments, which I welcome all the time. Okay, let's continue. But the words that you may do it. Linda, you can continue, or anyone else can continue.
All right, I'll go ahead.
Please, Elisabetta, per favore.
Grazie. But the words that you may do it refer to a love which merely leads to the performance of the commandments. This touches on the essential nature of the Benoni, as preceding chapters have described. The author draws a distinction that is central to the book between a state of being that entails inner changes in the heart's feelings and the actions that transpire in the realm of actual deed. The intention of the thing is very near in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it. It's not specifically to the first state, to the creation of intense emotions, until you are ravished always with her love. And I'm sick with love. Rather, this is a love that, at the least, leads to action. In this context, in your heart does not plumb the emotional profundity and intensity of revealed love, but it is no less love and no less in your heart.
Right. And this, of course, is based on the verse that he quoted at the beginning of this chapter 17, the verse in the Torah from Deuteronomy that says that God is not over the seas, is not in heaven, but God in his Torah, but it is in your heart, bilvavcha in your mouth and in your heart to do it. And it's focusing now on doing it. Now, this is referring also to the world of emotions versus the world of the mind, because your emotions will take you everywhere. We know that when we get upset, for example, any other emotion will start playing on your mind and take you to all sorts of impossible scenarios. But that's how the world is. The world of the heart is that it takes you to places that you shouldn't even explore. So you're going over the seas. If we go back to this verse, you're looking for solutions in places that are like so distant and impossible, but your heart doesn't think rationally. So it goes to all these places, to the heavens, and God comes and tells you, no, lo b'shamayim, it's not in heaven, and it's not lo me'ever layam, it's not over, beyond the oceans and seas. But if you are looking really for a solution, then go inwards, go into your mouth, go into your heart, and go into your action to do it. That's the most important. And therefore, one of the remedies, so to speak, to the craziness and to the instability of the heart is to focus it with action. That when I know I have to do something, I know there's no question in my mind that there's something that needs to be done. Say a mitzvah, for example. I have to do this mitzvah. There's no question about it. And my heart is taking me to all these impossible places. The only way to overcome it now is not to try and think about it or to put it in a drawer because you don't have time, but rather to just do it. Do the mitzvah, and that mitzvah will be so powerful that eventually it will align your heart. Don't wait for your heart to be aligned with the deed. Rather, make the deed align the heart and dedicate yourself to la'asoto, to just doing it. And this is what this is saying. And in many ways, that's a level of love that is very powerful. Eventually, you'll see it's called also reuta diliba, but it's a very powerful level of love because when I truly love someone, I am dedicated most not to my feelings of love for that person, but to my actions of love for that person, right? We've spoken about this many, many times. What defines a true relationship is not how much I say to my wife, I love you, or how much I feel it in my heart and how much I'm just, infatuated with her love. No, it's the actions. How much am I doing for my wife? Because I can say I love you all day long, but if I don't do anything about it, it doesn't mean anything. So action is what counts most. And sometimes your heart won't be there, and that's fine. If you know you have to do it, just do it, because what happens eventually is that your action is what fine-tunes your heart instead of the other way around. And I think that it's one of the prevalent methods that we'll find here in the Tanya. In many ways, in this battle between the mind and the heart, and the mind wanting to control the heart as it should, there are many remedies offered, or many, I would say, recipes offered. One recipe, as we said, is to lock it up in the drawer. The other recipe is very often to just think about other things, which is a way of locking it up in the drawer. The Tanya speaks about how if there's a negative thought, instead of entertaining it, you should just start thinking, take your mind elsewhere. But one of the great recipes of the Tanya is action. If you are feeling down, go do something good. Or if you are feeling like you're overcome with a negative emotion, then do something that has a lot to do with that emotion, that it will eventually purify the emotion that you're feeling. So, for example, if I'm feeling right now negative towards a specific person, or let's make it even more practical. If I want to gossip about a specific person right now, then the Tanya will tell you, then do it. Just do the good thing, which means speak positively about this person. And when you speak positively about this person, your positive words will have changed the feelings of your heart in most cases. So it's doing something in the same channel of your emotions, but it's doing that something that is positive, which will eventually also suck out the negativity of your emotion. And that's what this is saying. And that's a high level of love. Again, a love that's called Reuta Deliba, a love that we'll explore next week.